get the truth. Connerot arrests known associates of Dutroux. One of these is Michel Nihoul, a well-connected Brussels businessman and pub owner.
He's a part of this scene of sex parties in Brussels in the early 80s. He's the kind of guy telling stories about tapes that allow him to blackmail a minister, being involved in some kind of crime.
After a public appeal, 11 previous victims of Dutroux come forward. They are known as X-witnesses, and each is given a code name. X1 is Regina Louf.
I saw him on TV and all these people yelling at him, and it was a very strange experience for me.
Regina Louf, now a mother of 4, recognizes Marc Dutroux and Michel Nihoul from her childhood.
My mother had a boyfriend, and he hired me again to other men to sort of a prostitution network, and there I met Nihoul. So these parties were organized for other pedophiles, and there they took 1 to several children, and they had sex with them, of course, or they took photographs or films or making movies, everything. The people who were going to these parties were big businessmen. There were also politicians.
Accompanying Nihoul at these parties, according to Regina, was Marc Dutroux. If this story is true, Connerot appears to have stumbled upon evidence that a paedophile network involving Dutroux, Nihoul, and powerful people in Belgian society does indeed exist. It falls to Rudy Hoskins to investigate the claims of Regina Louf.
She talked about lots of people, a lot of notorious people in Belgium. Could be politicians or people from corporates, stuff like that. Also people from the police. It's difficult to say what her first impression was. It was a young woman with quite some problems, I think, in her head, honestly. Yeah.
That they are skeptical, I think it's logical. But the only thing I asked from them was to do their job and to look for clues.
Then Regina Louf provides extensive details of the unsolved murder of 15-year-old Christina van Hees, whose body was discovered in a disused farm on the outskirts of Brussels in 1984.
We found evidence in the old murder file about the autopsy of the corpse that corroborated her story. The way the victim was bound with the hands on the back and all kind of stuff they did to the victim. And there were really things she gave in her interview that were not publicly made available at that time of the murders that she told us.
Regina Louf's information on the Van Hees murder persuades Hoskins that maybe there is some truth in the rest of her testimony.
If there's only 10% or 20%, that's worthwhile investigating further. I think that's, for me, it's very clear.
But the implications of this testimony are also clear. A paedophile network of rich clients and criminals, protected by the authorities.
There's a big danger if she's right about the crime, the motives of the crime and the way it has been committed. She might be right about the suspects as well. I think people in some level were afraid of that.
However, Judge Connerot's investigation into Regina Louf's claim of the existence of a powerful paedophile network is suddenly brought to a halt. In October 1996, he is sacked. His attendance at a dinner thrown by the families of Dutroux's victims is deemed a conflict of interest by his superiors in the Ministry of Justice. Rudy Hoskins and the team working with the ex-witnesses are summoned to the Justice Department.
We were just informed during that meeting that already, as from today, you stop your investigation. And that was it. We were going too far for some people. Don't ask me who, I have no idea. And why, no idea. I still ask myself the same question. But we touched upon something that was not supposed to get out in the open.
Connerott's dismissal has a devastating effect on public confidence in the Dutroux investigation.
I am covering criminal investigations in this country for 15 years. I can't give you hundreds of names of judges having dinner with victims, with lawyers, with suspects. This happens all the time.
I always believed in Connerott. This stank and still stinks, in my opinion.
Hundreds of thousands of Belgians agree. On the 20th of October 1996, national outrage boils over at a huge march organized by the families of Dutroux's victims.
There was a sense of total disbelief, a sense of revolt, a sense of this can't go any further like this.
300,000 people march through Brussels. Workers across the country go on strike, and firemen turn their hoses on government buildings to symbolically cleanse official corruption. Belgium stands on the brink of revolution. Meanwhile, the man at the center of the storm maintains he is simply a small player in a much bigger criminal conspiracy. And his surviving victims prepare for their day in court.
I didn't crack up when I was freed from the monster's grip at the age of 12. But when I turned 20, another severe test of nerve awaited me, face to face with Marc Dutroux.
In 2004, Sabine Dardenne and Laetitia Delay attend the trial of the man who held them captive in his dungeon. In the dock with Marc Dutroux are his ex-wife Michel Martin and alleged associates Michel Nihoul and Michel Lelièvre. It has taken 8 years to bring Dutroux to trial. Officially, this is because the authorities have had to spend years investigating hundreds of leads into paedophile networks, which the police are convinced don't exist.
One thinks the trial will take place in 98-99. Some dreamers said 2000. No, well, 2004. Because of all the dead ends the investigation was led into, this whole series of way-out leads.
Sabine Dardenne was held captive for 79 days in Dutroux's dungeon in 1996. 8 years later, she gets the chance to confront him at last.
Dutroux is a pervert. Dutroux is a predator. Dutroux is a monster. She wanted to face him. She wanted to ask him, why on earth didn't you kill me? A question Dutroux didn't deign to answer.
But that isn't the only unanswered question to emerge from the trial. Belgians are split over whether Dutroux is a lone predator or part of a paedophile ring run by his co-defendant, Michel Nihoul.
I do think it wasn't just Dutroux who killed my child. I think that the police and the judiciary share in the guilt.
But many voices who could potentially shed light on this story are not in court, fueling suspicions of a cover-up.
There are a lot of people who died in the entourage of Dutroux very quick after he was arrested.
José Stepper is a police informer who claims he has explosive information on Dutroux. He dies 2 days before he is to meet his contact. His family believe he was poisoned. Jean-Paul Tamino is a figure in the Charleroi underground who disappears just as he is supposed to talk to the police. Parts of his body are fished out of the canal on the day of Dutroux's arrest. Francois Rayskins told a friend he'd seen Melissa Rousseau alive in Holland. Before he could tell the police, he was killed on a railway line. In all, 20 people connected with the case had died in suspicious circumstances. Also not appearing is Regina Louf, whose police interviews in 1996 appear to support the existence of a paedophile ring involving rich clients and run by Michel Nihoul. But the police investigation into Regina's claims was halted in 1997.
We still ask ourselves the same question: why? We were just doing our work, we were objective. Why the hell did they stop us?
She was interviewed by a second team of investigators, and her testimony dismissed.
They said it right in my face that they didn't believe it anymore, and that I was sick in the head and that I just only wanted attention.
By 2004, Regina Louf's character and testimony are bitterly disputed. Her motives and her state of mind are questioned, and she is dismissed in the press as a pathological liar.
Fantasies sell better than reality. In the Dutroux case, as far as I can tell, the ex-witnesses don't add anything whatsoever, really nothing whatsoever.
It's not that difficult to turn a victim in someone who is crazy. You just point your finger at the victim or the witness and say, she's false, she's just a maniac or something like that.
In contrast, Laetitia Delay and Sabine Dardenne maintain Marc Dutroux was their only abuser.
La seule personne vivante.
The only living person who has been in Dutroux's claws for 80 days is Sabine Dardenne. And Sabine Dardenne says, the only one I've seen is Marc Dutroux. So where is the ring? Someone who is acting on behalf of a large and very wealthy ring to sell little girls would not carry out a kidnapping in a ramshackle van registered to himself. And then he would keep this product in his cellar but wouldn't throw it on the market for some 80 days. It makes no sense.
Dutroux has never offered any details of the network he claimed to serve.
It might be helpful if he says, I'm working for an organization, that he would at least give a phone number about the guy, his contact person at his organization. He didn't do that.
On the 17th of June 2004, Marc Dutroux is found guilty of the abduction and rape of 6 girls and killing 4 of them. He is sentenced to life behind bars. His associate and driver, Michel Lelièvre, is found guilty of kidnapping and sentenced to 25 years in jail. Dutroux's ex-wife, Michel Martin, is found guilty of conspiracy to kidnap and sentenced to 30 years in jail. Businessman Michel Nihoul is convicted of drugs offences, but he is acquitted of being an accomplice of Dutroux. Officially, therefore, there is no paedophile network, no powerful clients, and no cover-up by the authorities.
The investigation revealed that Marc Dutroux acted alone. We haven't found a single element, neither in the investigation nor afterwards, indicating the existence of a ring, past or present, in our country.
But not everyone is satisfied.
I think we're never going to get the true story. And I don't believe that there is one person in this country who knows the full story.
The questions of whether Marc Dutroux acted alone or if he was part of a larger criminal network have never been resolved.
It's obvious he could have been arrested much earlier on. It's definite that Julie and Melissa could have been saved, and that other later victims